They're dropping like flies. The dog just died, landed here on Ventnor. He was only here, went over here, rolled like a 3. Green had just, the horse had just built a house that you really can't afford because he's coming up to dangerous land and he has no cash really. But this was a likely location and it seemed worth taking the risk. Without the dog, what we end up with over here, he's beginning to collect stuff up. Now he's got something that's of some value, which is the Short Line Railroad. He can unmortgage that, and he probably will right away. He's got... it's not like too many people are heading for it, but it's also not like it's a lot of money. And it doesn't affect the price of the other railroad. Whether it's mortgaged or not, it still is going to be $50 a chew. But it seems worthwhile to activate them both. They're cards, nothing that sends you directly to Short Line, which is really just a bus company, but there are cards which send you to the next railroad. Well, would any of those come into effect on Short Line? No, it's kind of the boned railroad anyway, because it's only a bus. It's not worth improving Illinois, even though there's a card for it. Well, I have a ton of money and nothing really to do with it, so I think I'll pull that out too. So that's going to cost me $132 to pull out a mortgage, and I'll figure out that money. We're at one of those really kind of painful moments to be in for someone. The shoes just landed on Park Place. That is the one unowned property. Tremendously valuable at this point in the game. The only possibility that he can make some kind of trade, and it looks like there is one. It looks like he could probably trade Tennessee face playing straight up for Boardwalk. However, he does not have enough cash for it. I'm going to have to mortgage and try to buy it and then make that trade. Be well nigh impossible for the shoe, but that is better than impossible, which is where he was without any property. And likewise for the car over there. The agreement that they came to, everything was mortgaged. $300 mortgage. Actually, the shoe would not have had to mortgage everything. He could have not mortgaged the orange property, for example, because that's his trade bait. Because it was mortgaged, the car said, look, that's just not fair. I'm giving you a $400 property. You're giving me a $180 property mortgaged, which is actually worth less than half. I've got to immediately unmortgage it. He couldn't just offer cash. So trading isn't at any time. It's close to any time. It's between turns. But what that meant is he couldn't offer cash to help cover the purchase in, the understanding that there would be a trade or anything like that. So he insisted on transfer of more. All he got out of it was the mortgaged Pennsylvania Railroad as well. This guy was not willing to give up Kentucky. To him, that's his potential of something more. If he gets the magic bonus hit that kills somebody with Boardwalk and Park Place somehow, and maybe he'll be able to start collecting the Reds or something. The Railroad, though, well, that seemed like a reasonable prize. And for him, I mean, both players are in this. If we don't make this deal, the problem is really one not of how much cash could be transferred. I asked for $1,000 and Baltic for States. This guy can easily afford it. He's got tons of money. The problem is the blowback, right? $1,000 to the Oranges is enough to put 3 houses on each. That's now 3 things that are game ender. It's not necessarily for him at this point. He's got a lot of cash, like I said, although that $1,000 is a big deal. So now it becomes kind of this bargaining game, doesn't it? Because he would still rather have the Pale Purples by a lot. The Pale Purples will help him a great deal in terms of being a little bit more violent towards other players, having this whole corner, but most importantly, being able to do $900 instead of $600 at the top end. So he wants it. It's just, where's that price going to fall? And we'll see. I'm going to do some die rolling negotiation types. Well, the deal was arrived at, and it really had to be here. It was just a matter of coming to an amount of money that the 2 players could decide on. They were being really intransigent about it. It ended up being $590 transferred over, but the get out of jail free card switching hands. The value of the get out of jail free card is not the $50 that it's worth when you're getting out of jail, obviously, because you don't know if you'll ever be in jail. What is it worth? Well, that's hard to tell, because it could be, worth $50 to you at some point in time if you're in jail and you can't get out easily. And it could be important in the sense that once it saves you that $50, from then on it's $50 that you've used. So I guess it's valuable in that sense, but the real thing is you can't use it to build houses, and that's where the real money is involved in all this. Now we're on the hat, and it was maybe okay. That is kind of an interesting deal. You can see the car landed there. But first, the hat landed on the electric company, paid $90. They made it sound better. But then 4 houses on stage, that's $625. That wiped out whatever the cash payment was. And that's going to make it tougher. I got to start building some houses for the Cannon, which has to get out of jail this turn, and also for the hat. And other people are coming around. So there should be some good money coming to that whole deal process, actually. And it's bad news for the horse. He stuck with the lousy greens, and I think they actually really suck because they're just so expensive. You have to have so much cash to operate them. So he's got almost no money. He landed for $550. Well, his houses are worth $100 each. He has less than $100 here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 500, and that's kind of cool because I was running out of houses and I'd have to make some more. Normally you can't do that, but I'm missing a dozen of them. So he gets out of it without being mortgaged. Throws a lot of money over here. Those pale purples are going to be built up. But there goes his hope there. Now, we're running into something interesting with the shoe here. He doesn't want to do this until people start coming close. But he's just holding Kentucky. This guy looks like he's on a wad of cash. I do not have a wad of cash. But a wad of cash would be very, very useful. So there's a potential, given that he's already hoteled up here, for me to desire, and for this guy to certainly accept, an exchange of some sort of property, Kentucky, for the extra money, and that would actually fill out all the sets would be out at that point. Now, in a smaller number of players, you usually don't see too many of these ancillary deals going on, but here it's kind of you're so strapped, you're in such bad shape that these extra deals, even if with someone who's doing much better than you and may improve their overall position, actually improve your odds as well. So it's kind of this nice situation where both people have it to their advantage to cut the deal. Then, of course, the question is, well, where is the even point? How much can this guy afford in cash? And how much is this guy really willing to slit you know, his probable eventual throat and everyone else's in exchange for some chance at all. The way a little further, we see another death. Built the hotels up, and there's an interesting factor in this game, a minor one, but houses and hotels are limited, and depending on the number of players, how the properties are spread out, there's a lot of properties active in this game. Usually in 3-player games that I'm used to, or 4-player, there's a couple property sets that don't get filled out early. The number of houses and hotels is a real significant limitation. So sometimes it's worth having a bunch of houses on property because the other players then can't build up their property to hotels. Other times, like this one where I already had most of the houses and no one else seems capable of building them, you want to make that spring to hotels and you want to rush to them. We've got 9 of the hotels out. That means there's only 3 more. Only 1 more property set will get to the hotel level. Of course, in my set, there's only 1 more, but I'll use something else for them. So it was important, especially for somebody with low-end property, to build up their hotels. And they did so, even though some of these were maybe not the most worthwhile properties to build up due to the luck. At this point, he had the cash. Well, Horsey landed on it with a fairly reasonable fairly reasonable distance. It was actually 2 die rolls because he got double 1s. And it wiped him out. Now, only barely. He's like, after mortgaging everything and selling off all his houses, he's like $3 off. And now, in some groups, someone will say, here, you know, I'll give you $3 so your property it doesn't go over. But here's the problem. What does that do? Yeah, actually, somebody's going to do that. Yeah, there's no question somebody will give the cash to him because the property is simply not worth letting it get into someone else's hands. I mean, anyone would do it. We're not talking about a big hit here, but he doesn't have to accept it. Now, if he's fighting his way back in the hat with his recent big windfall, well, he ended up paying even more, $1,150, for landing on Ventnor. We have these suckers, again, a big die roll, another $100. You know, my dad believes, hey, mortgage everything, build all your houses. To some extent, I do accept that, especially with property that doesn't have any hit at all. For example, these, if he needed houses, he should be mortgaging these, but he doesn't need them right now. But these guys have provided more in income in the last couple die rolls, mainly because there's a lot of people on the table. And a smaller number of players, mortgaging them does make more sense. But there's enough people at the table that they're going to generate income more than their mortgage value is. Their mortgage value is essentially a one-time value that you can pull in because, you know, if it was worth mortgaging it, it's probably not worth unmortgaging it unless your circumstances have changed significantly, like you have all your hotels or whatever. Now we're in an interesting point, though. The car's about to go. He's saying, now wait a minute, I want the red property now before a couple of people, hey, I'm one of those couple of people, before a couple of people come by. Can we work this deal? Yeah. On the other hand, there's a bunch of other couple of people heading for the Park Place and Boardwalk. So this is the time that the deal would be made. So I'll look and try to see what kind of arrangement they can come to. I think there's going to be one because both people need the advantage. Well, it went for $1,100, which still left him with enough money to have some cash overhead. You might ask, well, why didn't he build the extra one? Well, 3 houses is where the payoff starts to flatten out. And with 3 houses on each, he wasn't going to get to the hotels. With 3 houses on each, the likely hits, and only 2 houses here, he's saving a little bit of cash. He's got to go next. He might end up hitting Park Place and Boardwalk, or these might spring up at any moment. And 3 houses on Illinois gets hit. That's $750. Orange was playing it kind of close, barely able to buy a house here on Baltic. They ripped that up. They've still got under $300 here in cash. $455, $600. Basically, the offer is, give me all your property other than your prime moneymaker. You can keep that. You can keep your houses. And by the way, this had to be sold in order to make the exchange. And just give me the rest. A great deal? Not tremendous. But anything else would have knocked him completely out of any chance in the game. This knocks him out of most of the chance in the game. But, you know, the next person, so it would not have bankrupted him, but it would have left him ripped so the next person gets all that property. Now the next person he hits, if nobody hits him, gets the oranges, which is a pretty big bonus too. But at least it splits up the property, and it gives him some extension that is of meaning. Now we got to worry about the cannon, which is sitting right here, ready to jump into nasty stuff. Somehow this reminds me of me driving. So all the greens were brought up from mortgage, but there just wasn't enough cash on there. This guy has, you know, just hoteled up over here, and he had a big hit here. So he was really kind of strapped for cash. He had the $460 to move these all up. Figured at doubled price. And our shoe has decided to build big. He has enough to hit some of the lower valued stuff, but some of these would really cripple him. But after getting hit once, you know, after having somebody land on him once, he's like, man, I can't just let everybody go by at a couple $100 a pop. That's just not acceptable. So he built up to where it can hurt. Then the iron swept through the community chest. No bonus there, but he got the opposite of the pay 50 to every player. Now, you're not going to get as much money at this point in the game because there's so many players have been knocked out. We're down to a 5-player game at this point. Shoe definitely overbought if he was going to pay. He managed to avoid the line of red that would have really hosed him, including 4 now on Indiana, but landed on a choo-choo, and those are $200 each. He's got to rip up a house to pay for that one. Ouch. Remember how things were kind of harsh and he was tight on money, unmortgaged a bunch of property? Well, he rolled about the only thing that could kill him here. That's $1,200 he owes there. And, you know, honestly, he probably doesn't have $1,200. Well, if he rips everything up, he does. These are just so poor and unvaluable. And the question really comes down to, geez, he's probably going to have to actually get rid of those to maintain his position over here. That set that he worked so hard to gain control of. We'll see if he has enough cash on hand. Because if he can do it without getting rid of them, they are his one real sweet ticket to win. Basically, we've got two players with more than one set, and they're the people with the good chance. But without the greens, and I know I harsh on the greens, but they have killing potential, which is something the pale blues and pale purples don't. Without the greens, he doesn't have that ability to knock someone out of the game with hits as easily. There's no way that he can make that money up, and he does not want to give it over here. This guy's like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll clear the issue for you. You know, I can't give you any cash, but maybe we could work something out where I give you Waterworks, an electric company. Although he kind of likes them too. But yeah, there might have been some kind of deal, but he really did not want to do that. Nobody else is sitting on piles of cash. These two players are in really bad shape, except the Choo Choo guy. The Choo Choo guy's got over $1,100. Not quite the $1,200 needed, but he's going to throw all his cash in to buy these, and that'll allow him to make it up without having to strip his main properties. And who knows what's going to happen here, you know. But it did just bring him back into the game in an interesting sort of way. Now, not in the game in the sense that now he's got some real problems because he doesn't have any cash. But he's back in the game at least, and this guy's not completely out. He's in better shape than I would say anyone except the guy he just landed on twice in a row. Okay, and he managed to get a big enough roll to avoid all these pitfalls. The rest of the barrier up ahead is mainly his own, so that's not bad. There's a lot of money sitting over here now, enough to develop those purples. That's all he's got left to buy. I mean, you know, until he knocks someone out and takes their property, he's pretty much limited. Be building his hotels here. What do we have? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. There'll be one hotel left after he picks those up. He'll have the cash for those, I'm sure. They're like $250 each. He just got $1,200. In fact, he probably wants to buy them right away before anyone else does. Now, there becomes an issue. I'm trying to remember how it's handled if two people want to build at the same time. But there's some sort of I don't remember if they take turns building houses or if they actually, something makes me think almost bid, but I don't think so. I think what happens is they alternate buying houses. But that's not really an issue. The only reason somebody wants to stop him is once they see that he's buying a hotel on each, and they're like, oh shit, there goes the second to last hotel. I've got problems. But nobody's got the cash really to handle anything. His other alternative would be to build up here, but those aren't as important to get hotels on. Yes, they're killer spaces to get hotels on, but these guys are basically valueless without a hotel. So he wants to clear them for that. With the car coming, I don't know. I think I'm going to load this one up though.